Hey everyone, this is Dr. B, and today I want to talk to you about raising resilient children and the science behind that. Doesn't just come naturally, it doesn't just come automatically, even though there is some human development that occurs that push us in the direction of resiliency, which is so cool about humanity. So let's kick it off with a statistic. 78% of children between the ages of 6 months and 5 years already show early signs of resiliency. They're affectionate towards their caregivers. They bounce back when things don't necessarily go their way. They're curious and interested about the world and people around them and little things that we put in front of them. And they smile and giggle and laugh a lot, which is so fun. So whenever you have that baby that's giggling and laughing and smiling, you can know inside the brain is firing, and it's firing for resilience. So super cool. All right, so why is resilience building important to emotional development or psychological development? Well, we live in a really complicated world and people need to be connected. It's so helpful when people are calm rather than anxiety driven all the time. When people can bounce back from an event that doesn't go their way or is something that's upsetting, and where people are flexible. Things happen all the time that are not predictable, that are not consistent. Consistency and predictability are the greatest things that lead to resilience because they help us recognize what's coming next. But if that coming next thing isn't what we expect, then being able to remain calm and flexible is the result of having a resilient brain. And we build that resilient brain in infancy. And we reinforce it in childhood and adolescence, and then even into adulthood, where we have healthy practices for our mental and emotional health and well-being. And that helps to reduce the impact of anxiety and depression on people in their lives, because not being resilient, not being able to bounce back, not being able to be flexible can lean into anxiety and resilience in a really debilitating way sometimes. Okay, so the challenges in life are different today. So children face different challenges than we faced in our childhood. And so there's social media, there's academic pressures, there's a whole new way we do the world with technology, which makes it more complicated in some ways and probably really easier in another way. But different challenges, but we have the same science, the same neuroscience that we know builds resilience. And so I like to call it the highway project. It's the science behind how we build resiliency. And remember, I did my dissertation for my PhD in clinical psych on resilience, particularly in infancy. So this is kind of my baby. But what I like to call a highway project is that we're building the highway in the brain for resiliency and for all the information that's going to come to a person across their lifespan. We're building that highway in the first 3 years of life, maybe the first birth to 5 years of life. But then we add cars to the highway, and sometimes the cars crash, and sometimes the highway runs really smoothly and we get exactly where we want to go. But ultimately, the highway helps determine how smoothly the information rolls on the roads. So that's the highway project. And all the little things that we do with a baby in infancy, we talk to them, we show them affection, so then they can also copy that, and those mirror neurons will wire in their brains as well for affection and love. And when something goes awry, instead of screaming and freaking out and throwing something across the room, we show the baby, sometimes things happen, they don't go the way we want them to. And then that's wiring for the brain. The brain wires where the brain fires. And the grown-ups in the room, the parents, the caregivers, the aunties, the uncles, the friends, the family, the community, these are the people who show babies and young children how to wire up their brain. Now, it's not like, here's the book, wire your brain here to here to here, but it's by how we behave towards the baby or the child. And so when I say the brain wires where the brain fires, when we show somebody love and affection, that amps up their wiring in their brain. When we problem solve with a little and say, oh, I see you're not figuring that out, I wonder what you could do next, helps them to think in their brain what they could do next. Or also making sure that children understand that they have a purpose. Like, you're bigger than yourself. You can be, anything you want to be in the world. And when children feel the sense of having a purpose, they will become more resilient. And last but not least, valued. I love you. I think you're an amazing person, whether you're successful or not successful at something, whether you cry or whether you laugh, whatever you do, you're valued. And when children have that, relational value from people in the community around them, then they are able to reflect that within themselves. And we all know when we're not valued, how bad that feels. And so this is really powerful for young children to hear out loud often. But how do we, let's talk about the main points of resilience. Again, remember, it happens in infancy. This is so important, and people always think the first 3 years of life are just blobby. I call it the blob period. But in reality, that is not true. The most important things that happen in our brain and even in our body happen in the first 3 years of life. Lots happens. We learn to walk, we learn to talk, we learn to breathe air over water, we learn how to connect with people with our eyes and our facial expressions and sometimes little words. So a lot happens. Infancy matters way more than people give it credit for. And during this period, we're teaching babies how to be calm. Of course, they're going to cry. They're babies. They have to communicate, but they're going to be able to learn how to also be calm because we're going to talk to them in that calm way and help support their needs. We also teach babies to be curious by carrying them around in the world and saying oh, what does this feel like? The bark on a tree or the fur on a dog or a cat or whatever. We're asking questions and talking out loud to babies all the time to inspire their curiosity about the world. And most importantly, I always say connection. We just want to be connected to children, to babies, to other people, because that's what keeps us going. And that really is an inspiring factor of resilience, is that we connect to each other in the world. So with that, I want to leave you with an invitation to, one, comment or leave your experience or parenting tip below, or also just ask a question if you want to know something about babies or children or teenagers, whatever group you want, or resilience and trauma. Leave it in the comments. With that, leave a life print. Thanks.